there is an invisible architect tirelessly at work within you. Every thought, every belief, every emotion you repeat becomes a stroke on that blueprint. And your body, every cell, every heartbeat can only follow the drawing it has been handed. When the blueprint is filled with anxiety, guilt, and fear, the body reflects, cracks, and fractures. But when the blueprint is replaced with clear faith, images of health, and affirmations of reassurance, the body begins to rebuild. From its very foundation, this is the 16-step journey that leads you from awareness to transformation, from the cycle of illness to the spiritual climate of wholeness. The mind is the invisible architect of the body. Every cell receives its orders from the spiritual climate within. A calm mind sends signals of harmony, while a restless mind transmits confusion. The mind is that unseen architect, and every thought you nurture becomes a secret command that flows down into each cell. When the mind is at peace, the commands it sends are clear signals, steady rhythms, like a pure melody that every organ knows how to follow. When the mind is disturbed, the commands are distorted, the signals chaotic, and the body becomes like an orchestra playing out of tune, its sound dissolving into disorder and exhaustion. People often assume the body functions on its own, as if the heart beats by itself, the lungs breathe by themselves, and the stomach digests by itself. Yet behind every biological mechanism lies the subtle stream of messages the mind is constantly sending. You may hide your emotions from others, but you cannot hide them from your own cells, because every moment of anxiety or every breath of peace becomes a biochemical command. Modern science has already proven that every thought produces electrical impulses and chemical waves that travel through the nervous system, enter the bloodstream, trigger hormones, and alter the way organs function. A single anxious thought is enough to accelerate the heart, raise blood pressure, increase stomach acid, and tighten the muscles. A single peaceful thought can slow the heartbeat, steady the breath, and restore the immune system. This is not some abstract theory, but a living reality unfolding within you every minute, every second. If you live under constant fear, your body gradually forms itself like a fortress under siege, its systems locked in endless defense until they collapse. But if you sustain faith and inner peace, your body forms itself like a green garden, where every biological mechanism works together to nurture life. Observe someone who consistently maintains a positive attitude. Their face glows, their eyes sparkle, their steps are lively, and their wounds tend to heal more quickly. In contrast, someone who lives in sadness, resentment, and worry slowly imprints those emotions onto their face in wrinkles, into their posture in fatigue, and into their life as lingering ailments. This is not luck or injustice. It is the invisible blueprint inside, deciding the course of the body. A building set on firm foundations can endure storms for decades, while one set on cracked soil will show damage within a short time. Every time you let your mind be swept away by random thoughts, you hand over the blueprint of your body to chaos. Every time you choose to keep your mind clear, you place in the hands of the invisible architect a steady plan. This is the difference between living as one who is driven and living as one who has dominion. The driven person lets fleeting emotions draw the map for the body, while the one with dominion knows they are the master builder and carefully chooses each brick, each beam of the temple of health. You can see this in daily habits. A person who wakes up in anxiety sends signals of alarm into every cell, setting the body on edge before the day even begins. Another who wakes up in gratitude and peace sends a harmonious melody down into the body, preparing it for creativity and joy. Let this difference repeat long enough and you will see two completely different lives unfold. One leads to a frail body, sickness, and a weakened spirit. The other to a resilient body, a clear mind, and an abundance of vitality. A peaceful mind is not a vague condition. It is a skill that can be trained when you learn to sit still, regulate your breath, and hold a positive affirmation such as, "My body is the temple of life." You are transmitting to every cell a signal of renewal. Each repetition strengthens that signal, reshaping the function of the nervous system, the circulation of the blood, and the capacity of the cells to repair themselves. The power does not lie in miracles from the outside, but in the choices of thought within. Those who understand this principle are often less prone to illness, or when they do fall ill, they recover more quickly, for they heal not only with medicine, but by feeding their body with clear and uplifting thoughts. Those who abandon their mind to fear and pessimism, even with advanced medical treatment, often relapse because the original blueprint has not been changed. You cannot separate the body from the mind, just as you cannot separate a house from its foundation. Every cell is listening to what you think and feel. Every stream of thought is a command. If you plant seeds of anxiety, you will reap tension. If you plant seeds of trust, you will reap renewal. This is the unchanging law of mind and body. Begin to recognize this truth today. Each time your mind runs toward fear, pause and ask, "What blueprint am I handing my body?" Each time you choose peace, you give your body the chance to rebuild itself on solid ground. Do not wait for a miraculous sign from the outside. The miracle begins the moment you change the blueprint within your mind. The body will only follow the directions of its invisible architect, and that architect is none other than you. Illness does not begin on the surface, but at the foundation of a distorted psychology. The anxieties you repeat each day, the hidden guilt you never resolve, the resentments you continue to carry, these become the invisible beams and pillars that support a crooked structure. At first, the walls may still stand straight. The paint may look fresh, and everything seems intact. Yet, like a house built on sinking soil, cracks will eventually appear. At the beginning, it may show as unexplained fatigue, then small recurring pains, and later as more serious disorders. Have you ever wondered why, under the same living conditions, one person remains healthy while another constantly falls ill? The difference does not lie only in diet or lifestyle, but still in the psychological state that has taken root. The mind is never neutral. It is either building balance or laying a distorted foundation. A person who lives under prolonged anxiety is like someone laying the foundation of their house on sand. Anxiety continuously sends alarm signals, overdriving the nervous system, flooding the body with stress hormones, suppressing immunity. At first, the body resists, but over time, the biological walls begin to crack. A person who carries long-standing feelings of inferiority will find their body gradually losing vitality. They believe they are weak, and that belief, repeated over and over, becomes the master blueprint, shaping their entire structure. A person who holds on to resentment erects within themselves rigid columns, always braced for defense, causing high blood pressure, irregular heartbeat, and eventual organ exhaustion. When you patch cracks on the wall but never change the foundation, the house will crack again. When you treat only symptoms with medicine but never change the mind, illness will return. The essential task is to repair the foundation. A single negative thought, repeated thousands of times, becomes steel reinforcement for an entire faulty construction. Conversely, a positive belief, if cultivated faithfully, can reset the foundation and raise up a body that is resilient and strong. Pause for a moment and look within yourself. Are you holding on to an old worry that has never been released? Are you carrying a quiet sense of inferiority or a resentment you have not forgiven? If so, understand that your body has been listening to those signals all along, whether you are aware of it or not. The body does only what it must. It reflects faithfully the psychological foundation. And now I ask you, as you hear these words, do you recognize within yourself a belief or emotion that has been silently shaping your health? This question does not need a spoken answer, only your honesty with yourself. If you find yourself nodding inwardly, know that you are not alone. Millions have lived with such distorted foundations, but the difference is that you have now heard this truth, and recognition is the beginning of change. I thank you for being here, for listening with full attention. For the very moment you are present with truth is the moment a new foundation begins to be laid. Remember, the house of health is never fixed forever. It can always be rebuilt. If the foundation is crooked, you can dig deeper, reset it, and raise a stronger structure than before. Every peaceful thought, every moment of forgiveness, every time you choose trust over fear, you are laying bricks at the root, and when the foundation is firm, the house will stand tall, enduring, unafraid of contrary winds or any challenge from the outside. The power to change the blueprint is not distant. It is present within the very mind that once produced cracks and distortions. The same mind that allowed anxiety and resentment to erect crooked pillars is the mind that can dismantle them, brick by brick, and replace them with a firm foundation. No law binds you to continue living in an old house built from fear. The invisible architect carries no prejudice, no memory of its own. It simply receives the design. You hand it today and begins to build. This means that at every moment you stand at a crossroads, either continue to submit the old blueprint or place in its hands a new design. When you realize that illness is not merely a random intrusion from the outside, but a replica of inner commands, you also awaken to the truth that the power to change does not belong to doctors, nor to fate, but to your own choice. This is not a rejection of medicine, but the foundation that enables medicine to work more effectively. A surgery may replace an organ. A pill may lower a fever, but if the mind keeps sending flawed instructions, the house will collapse again from within. Conversely, when you give the subconscious a new design of strength, faith, and gratitude, then any medical care becomes an ally, amplifying and accelerating recovery. The new blueprint does not need to be complicated. It only needs to be clear and persistent. A person who has lived many years under the weight of weakness may begin with a simple affirmation, such as, "My body is learning to recover." One haunted by fear of aging may begin by picturing vitality still flowing through their veins. This new choice, when repeated with consistency, will gradually replace the old lines. Etched deep within, the miracle lies in this. The subconscious does not take long to question the new design. It simply builds according to what it is given. If you keep supplying images of health, feelings of stability, words of affirmation, the subconscious will start dismantling the crooked beams of illness and erect a structure of strength. Look at how a garden changes when the gardener decides to uproot the weeds and sow new seeds. At first, the soil is cluttered with old roots, yet the new seeds still sprout if watered with patience and steady light. So it is with the body. The roots of anxiety and fear may cling tightly, but as you sow new beliefs each day, life always finds a way to rise. The key is not to expect change in an instant, but to trust that each right choice is altering the design at the deepest level And once the foundation shifts, the body cannot help but reflect that change. There are people who once suffered chronic illness, who tried every method yet, saw no relief, but when they changed the way they thought, when they ceased to see themselves as helpless victims and began to trust that the body holds an intelligence to heal, their bodies responded, signs of recovery appeared, fatigue eased, wounds healed faster, sleep became deeper. This was not a miracle. It was simply a new blueprint handed down. And the invisible architect fulfilling its role, the strength lies not in fleeting wishes, but in choices repeated until they become foundation. You may feel frail in the morning, yet if you still choose one thought of strength, still choose to envision a body alive with health, you have already redrawn a line on the plan. Tomorrow you will place another brick. Day after day, month after month, the new wall will rise stronger, brighter, and one day you will see that the entire house has changed. With no trace of the old foundation, the power to change the blueprint is in your hands this very moment. It does not demand a special occasion or a dramatic event. It only requires a clear decision. From now on, I will no longer feed the flawed designs of fear and resentment. I will submit a new plan of peace, vitality, and faith. And once the blueprint is changed, the invisible architect will do the rest, constructing a body that perfectly reflects that choice. This is the fairness and precision of the law of mind, and the silent promise available to anyone who dares to use it. Core belief is the master blueprint, and the subconscious never argues with you. It simply builds according to what you have accepted as truth. If deep down you believe that aging must inevitably bring illness, then the subconscious will construct your body in alignment with that belief. If you believe hereditary disease is unavoidable, the subconscious will replicate that design no matter how much your conscious mind may wish to escape it. The body does not respond to passing wishes, but to the deeply rooted convictions you have entrusted to it. These beliefs are rarely chosen deliberately. They seep into you from the repeated words of elders, from culture, from the environment in which you grew up. Some grew up hearing, in this family, everyone ends up with heart disease. And that statement became a subconscious foundation. Others witnessed parents and grandparents decline in pain and unconsciously accepted that old age can only mean suffering. These blueprints take root in the subconscious, and the invisible architect simply builds according to them. Yet the law of mind offers you a fair escape. Change the belief, and you change the design. When you decide that aging can go hand in hand with vitality, that health is not an accident, but an inner power, the subconscious begins to receive a new plan. Once the blueprint changes, nothing can prevent transformation. You may ask, how can I know what my core belief is? Observe the body. The recurring symptoms, the constant worries about illness, these are the mirror reflecting the belief at work within you. Core beliefs do not dissolve with a few surface words. They must be replaced through repeated experiences, through affirmations infused with emotion, through vivid images given to the subconscious daily. Just as a plot of land that once held an old house must be cleared, the foundation dug anew, and bricks laid patiently to build again, so must old beliefs be replaced. One day, the new belief will become the foundation, and your body will automatically build upon it without your effort. I want you to pause and ask yourself, what core belief about health are you carrying? Do you believe your body is weak, easily broken? Do you believe aging must bring decline? Do you believe heredity is an unavoidable sentence? If you recognize that you still hold such beliefs, then this is the moment to rewrite the plan. And if you have listened this far, let me see your presence. Leave a comment with the words, I am ready to change or even a simple number, 1. That will be your affirmation that you no longer wish to live by the old design, but are ready to hand your subconscious a new blueprint. I thank you sincerely for being here. For your participation is the signal that you have already begun to act. When you change your belief, you change everything. A person who once believed they could never be well again, upon changing that belief, recovered beyond imagination. A person who once believed aging was the end, upon accepting a new belief that age is only a number, lived years more vigorous than their youth. You too can do the same. The key is to nurture the new belief until it becomes the master plan. Remember, the subconscious does not care whether you have proof in this moment. It cares only what you believe. If you believe in health, it will build the body accordingly. If you believe in weakness, it will build the body accordingly. You are the one handing over the design. And the invisible architect never refuses the order. This is an unchanging truth. And the key to reclaiming your dominion, when you accept this, you are no longer the victim of heredity, no longer bound by age, no longer imprisoned by memories of illness. You become the master of the blueprint. And from that moment, the entire structure of your body changes. A new belief, a new foundation, a new body. It all begins with the decision you make today. The conduit linking mind and body is no mere metaphor, but a biological reality. The nervous system, the endocrine system, and the immune system form a ceaselessly interconnected network where every impression of the mind is instantly translated into a physiological response. A single anxious thought can constrict blood vessels, quicken the heartbeat, and slow digestion. A single feeling of peace can relax the muscles, deepen the breath, and empower the immune cells. No thought is harmless. For every spark in the mind travels as a current of signals, and the body makes no distinction between imagination and reality. When you recall a painful memory, your body immediately releases the same stress hormones as when the event first occurred. When you imagine a joyful vision, your body releases endorphins and dopamine as though you were living that experience. Now, the nervous system acts like a network of wires carrying impulses from the brain throughout the body. The endocrine system is the network of broadcasting stations releasing hormones that influence heartbeat, sleep, and metabolism. The immune system is the tireless workforce repairing and protecting, yet it becomes fatigued and exhausted if forced to respond to constant false alarms from the mind. When these three systems work in harmony, the body enters balance and renewal. When they are forced into contradiction, disharmony arises and illness appears. The relationship between mind and body is a two-way feedback loop. An anxious thought quickens the heart, and the rapid heartbeat sends a signal back to the brain that danger is near, which intensifies anxiety. A peaceful feeling slows the breath, and the slower breath sends a signal back to the brain that you are safe, reinforcing peace. To understand this loop is to hold the key to mastery of both body and mind. When you notice a negative reaction arising, you can break the loop with a deep breath, with an image of safety, and the cycle adjusts itself. Neuroscience has proven that the brain cannot clearly distinguish between an actual event and an imagined event. With strong emotion, a person imagining running can raise their heartbeat as though running. A person visualizing happiness can stimulate the release of the body's pleasure hormones. This is no illusion, but evidence of the power of the mind over the conduits between thought and body. If you let your mind replay anxious scenarios, the body will react as though you live on a battlefield. If you nourish positive images, the body will respond as though you dwell in a quiet garden. What you must remember is that these signals do not only act in the moment, they leave lasting imprints. A person living under chronic stress compels the body to flood with cortisol and adrenaline, leading to high blood pressure, disordered sleep, and weakened immunity. Conversely, one who cultivates gratitude and stillness allows the body to regularly release serotonin and oxytocin, strengthening immunity and hastening healing. This two-way feedback can either magnify or cancel itself out. Depending on the blueprint you're sending down, a few minutes of anger can suppress the immune system for hours. A single moment of genuine joy can strengthen resistance for days. Every emotional experience etches itself upon the body. This explains why some remain chronically ill despite endless medication, because their inner blueprint continues to issue distorted commands daily. Conversely, others recover swiftly beyond prediction because they have learned to send signals of peace and trust. The mind-body conduit is like a delicate electrical grid in a city. If the current is steady, the lights shine. Machines run smoothly. If the current falters, surging or dimming, the city falls into disorder. The mind is the power plant, the body, the city receiving its signal. Every disturbance in the mind manifests as a breakdown somewhere in the body. Likewise, every current of clarity and peace in the mind becomes strength, nourishing every cell. When you understand this principle, you begin to see that healing is not only the work of medicine, it is also the art of governing the signals you send. Regard each thought as a message traveling through the conduit. If the message is clear and safe, the body functions rightly. If the message is confused, the body stumbles in disorder. The body is not your enemy. It simply obeys the commands you give. And from this moment, you always hold the choice of which melody will resound through the entire network of that conduit. Fear is not merely a fleeting feeling in the mind. It is a precise chemical formula imprinted upon every cell. When fear arises, the body immediately releases cortisol and adrenaline in a moment of real danger. This is a gift, enabling you to escape harm. Cortisol mobilizes energy. Adrenaline quickens the heartbeat, expands the lungs, and tenses the muscles in readiness for action. But when fear becomes a habit, when you live for years under false alarms, these chemicals cease to protect and begin to destroy. The immune system is suppressed, silente inflammation, recess, sleep is disturbed, and the body grows exhausted in an endless state of defense. Imagine a machine designed to run at full capacity only occasionally, yet forced to run at maximum power without rest. Inevitably, it overheats. Parts wear down. Wires burn. So it is with the body trapped in chronic fear. Prolonged high cortisol reduces resistance to infection, slows healing, and opens the door to chronic disease. Excess adrenaline keeps the heart under pressure, raises blood pressure, constricts vessels, causing headaches, muscle tension, and sleeplessness. The body slips into decline simply because the mind chose to let fear dictate each day. More profoundly, the nervous system cannot clearly distinguish between real threats and imagined ones. When you worry about health, when you fear the future, when you repeatedly envision the worst, the body releases the same chemicals as though you were being chased in the street. In the language of physiology, imagination and reality merge. An old painful memory can raise your heartbeat today. A vague anxiety about tomorrow can tighten your muscles as if you were standing in the middle of battle. Yet if fear has a chemical formula, peace also has a chemical formula. When you send signals of safety, the nervous system shifts into rest and repair. Cortisol subsides. The body returns to balance. Adrenaline decreases. The heartbeat and blood pressure stabilize. Other hormones like serotonin and oxytocin are released, nurturing trust and connection. Here lies the crucial point. You do not need to wait for circumstances to change in order to feel safe. You only need to change the blueprint in your mind, and the body will obey the new command. Replacing signals of fear with signals of trust is not self-deception, but a return of the body to its natural design. A deep breath, a positive affirmation, a mental image of peace can instantly alter the chemistry in your blood. Science calls this a physiological effect, but you may call it the power of choice. It is not self-consolation. It is a concrete act, reaching down into every cell. Each time you choose peace, you are rewriting your own chemical formula. This requires persistence. Someone who has lived many years in fear may not instantly shift into perfect trust, but even a single moment of calm, repeated often enough, begins to retrain the body. The brain lays down new pathways. The nervous system adjusts to signals of safety, and one day peace no longer feels forced but becomes a natural reflex. Just as the body once grew accustomed to false alarms, now it will grow accustomed to the design of safety and recovery. Picture yourself stepping into a room, is absolutely safe, where no threat exists, only warmth and stillness. Each time you bring your mind back to that room, the chemistry of your body changes, cortisol lowers, the heartbeat settles, the breath deepens. Gradually, the body accepts that this new state is real and begins to rebuild health upon that foundation. This is what they're saying, this is the power of voice. Within not just a voice you hear, but a space you return to seeks to remind you. The inner voice is not merely sound in your head, but a safe space you can inhabit, a climate you can live in each day. If fear can create illness, then trust can rebuild health. If cortisol can weaken immunity, then serotonin and oxytocin can restore what was lost. The truth is that every second you can change the signal. Every second is a choice between false alarms and the symphony of peace. And the most important truth is this: the body is never against you. It is only faithful to the orders you send. When you learn to send signals of trust, the body will recover, because that is the very work it was created to do. Emotional aftershocks do not vanish simply because time passes. They settle into the body like fine dust, clinging to every muscle fiber, every breath, every stream of blood. An anger never expressed, a sorrow never acknowledged, a guilt never resolved. All of these become silent burdens. The body must spend energy to hold them down, as though you were forcing a heavy object beneath the water's surface. At first it may seem manageable, but the longer it continues, the more exhausting it becomes, draining vitality, little by little. The result is tight muscles, stiff joints, shallow breathing, restless sleep, and weakened immunity. Low-grade inflammation smolders like a small flame left unattended, setting the stage for chronic disease. Look at the posture of someone who has lived for years in resentment. Their shoulders draw inward, their chest collapses, their steps are heavy. This is not just mechanical habit. It is the body carrying an unresolved story. A person burdened with guilt often struggles to lift their head, their eyes avoiding contact, their entire frame reflecting the weight within. One who has lingered long in sadness breathes shallowly, their chest never opening fully, oxygen intake low, life energy drained. The body does not lie. It tells faithfully what the mind has not yet released. The danger is that most of us do not realize emotional aftershocks are seeping into the body. We think we have forgotten an event because we no longer dwell on it. But the body has not forgotten. It stores the memory as muscular tension, as unexplained aches, as fatigue without cause. The mind can evade, but the body cannot. And if these burdens are never released, they become walls blocking the natural flow of life. The way to release them is not to dig up the past and relive the pain, but to acknowledge that the emotion existed and allow it to leave. Acknowledgement is the first step, a slow, deep breath paired with words to yourself. I acknowledge this anger, I acknowledge this sadness, and I am willing to release it. In that moment of no longer resisting, the trapped energy begins to dissolve. Movement also opens the door. Walking, practicing yoga, or simply stretching the body creates space for stagnant energy to flow out. Every step, every deep breath is an exit for what has been buried. Release can also happen in stillness. Sit down, close your eyes, let your body soften, and allow old memories to rise without judgment. They are like clouds passing across the sky. You need only to observe and let them drift away. A sigh, a tear, a sudden lightness in the chest. These are signs the body is loosening its burdens. Sometimes release comes in a small, almost unnoticeable moment, but that subtle lightness is proof that another layer of chains has fallen away when the body no longer strains to hold on to old emotions. Life energy returns, blood flows more freely, muscles soften, sleep deepens. The immune system is released from useless states of inflammation and returns to its true function of protection and repair. And along with these physical changes, the mind clears, freed from the body's burden. The mind gains space for clarity, focus, and creativity. Releasing emotional aftershocks does not mean you must become someone else. It simply means you return to the lightness that was always your body's right. Anger, sadness, guilt are not enemies. They are signals left unfinished. When you acknowledge, move, breathe, and let go, those signals complete their cycle and depart. The body becomes, again, like cleared soil, ready for new seeds. Remember, your body is the truest record of your life. Every unspoken word, every unshed tear, every unfelt emotion is stored within it. But the body is also the doorway to healing through breath, through movement, through acknowledgement without judgment. You can release what has held you so long, and when you do, you not only heal the body, you free the mind from invisible walls. In the space that opens, life returns like sunlight streaming into a room that has been shut for many years. Self-talk is the daily prescription, a medicine you write for yourself with the whispers in your mind, and the body receives them as unquestionable commands. The subconscious does not distinguish between an idle remark and a solemn declaration. It only listens and records. If each day you say to yourself, I am tired, I am weaker, I cannot go on, those words become signals transmitted to every cell, shifting hormones, altering immune response, and even slowing recovery. The body is so faithful it will seek to prove that your words are true. Say your memory is poor, and gradually you forget more. Say aging must inevitably bring disease, and the body will operate as if that were a law. Words of self-belittling are sometimes spoken in jest, but the subconscious does not understand humor. It only takes data. Repeat often enough, I am always tired, and you will begin to feel exhausted. Repeat, I can never do this, and you build an invisible barrier in the brain, tightening the body and refusing effort. That is the silent power of self-talk, a hidden prescription you take daily, whether consciously or not. If negative words can build illness, then positive words can rebuild health. When you say to yourself, My body is learning to recover. Every cell receives the command and begins to reorganize the repair process. When you repeat, I'm getting stronger each day, the nervous system relaxes. Restorative hormones flow more freely. Sleep deepens. It is not because the words hold some mysterious magic, but because words are the blueprint handed to the invisible architect of the subconscious. It takes the instruction and builds it into biological reality. Yet for affirmations to hold power, they must be truthful and believable to you. If you are gravely ill and say, I am completely healthy, your conscious mind will protest, sending mixed signals, and the result will be weak. But if you adjust the affirmation to, my body is healing each day, or I am moving closer to full health, you provide the subconscious with a design that feels possible, one it will accept and construct. The key is repetition. A medicine works only when taken consistently. An affirmation works the same. It must be repeated long enough to sink into the subconscious foundation. At first, you may feel nothing. After weeks, your body begins to show new signals. After months, the affirmation becomes a core belief. And then its power is fully revealed. Each phrase is a brick, and every repetition is another laid into the foundation of a new health. Consider the simple example of how you begin your day. Wake up with the words, today will be exhausting. And that statement instantly shapes the climate of the day. But wake up with the words, I am ready for a day full of vitality, and the body receives a completely different signal. The brain releases different hormones, and the day unfolds in another direction. One self-talk phrase can redirect an entire train. Remember, self-talk is not only the words spoken aloud, but also the silent phrases repeated in the mind. When you make a mistake and think, I am terrible, that is also a command. When you face difficulty and whisper, I have the strength to overcome, that too is a command. Self-talk is the quiet dialogue between you and the subconscious always obeys. Therefore, choose language of progress. Instead of saying, I will never recover, say, I am improving each day. Instead of saying, my memory is failing, say, my memory is strengthening. Instead of saying, I am always tired, say, energy is returning to me. These words do not deny your current reality. They open a pathway, a door for the subconscious to build something new. Self-talk carries another power, the power to shape identity. Say long enough, I am weak, and you make it your identity. Say long enough, I am one who recovers. I am one who lives with vitality, and a new identity is formed with the body simply following. When identity shifts, habits shift, and life itself transforms. It must be emphasized that self-talk works only when done with focus. If you repeat affirmations carelessly, as hollow words, the subconscious receives no clear instruction. But if you speak with sincerity, attaching vivid images and genuine emotion, the subconscious engraves it as a master blueprint. A single affirmation with feeling and imagery has many times the power of dry words. Your body is a construction built daily, and self-talk is the blueprint delivered to the invisible architect. Look back at what you have said to yourself today. Each phrase was a prescription, an order for construction. If your words were diminishing, you prescribed illness. If your words were encouraging, you prescribe recovery. The choice is yours in every moment. And once you understand this, you will never again take lightly the words you speak to yourself. For each of those words is a stone building the body and the life in which you now dwell. The physics of inner imagery is not a vague concept. but an exact law that governs the workings of mind and body. Every image you hold in your mind is received by the subconscious as a living blueprint, a detailed plan to be built into biological reality. When you visualize with strong emotion, the body does not distinguish whether the scene is external or internal. It only receives the signal and begins adjusting its physiology to match the image. If you imagine yourself weak, tired, or ill, you are rehearsing for decline. If you imagine yourself strong, radiant, and full of vitality, you are training the body to build health. Professional athletes prove this principle. They do not only train on the field, they rehearse in the mind. An athlete closes his eyes and visualizes each stride, each swing, each breath, and the muscles respond as though he were in motion. The brain activates the same neural circuits. The body releases the same physiological responses. By the time competition arrives, the body is familiar with the action because it has rehearsed it thousands of times in imagination. If visualization produces such powerful results in sport, it can produce equally profound results in health. A person who daily imagines themselves frail, staggering, and short of breath is unconsciously compelling the subconscious to replicate that plan in the body. Slowly, their posture bends, their breathing shortens, their energy wanes, all because the inner blueprint keeps repeating the same script. In contrast, someone who spends a few minutes each day picturing themselves walking confidently, breathing deeply, with radiant skin and clear eyes, finds the body beginning to adjust to that plan. At first it shows as lightness, then deeper sleep, then increased vitality. Each small detail in the image becomes a command to the subconscious, which executes it without protest. What gives inner imagery its power is the emotion that accompanies it. A dry picture is static, but an image infused with feeling becomes a living plan. When you imagine yourself running along the beach, feel the cool wind, hear the crash of waves, see the sunlight, sense the fullness of breath, the more senses you involve, the more vivid the plan, and the easier it is for the subconscious to build. A vague sketch cannot alter biology, but a vibrant, emotional picture can rewrite the nervous system itself. The remarkable fact is that both illness and health can be rehearsed this way. The one who constantly envisions worst-case scenarios, pictures disease, and fears collapse is programming the body with a fragile design. The one who imagines vitality, restoration, and balance is programming the body with a strong foundation. The physics of inner imagery is impartial. It does not judge. It only builds what you hand down. Imagine each day standing before a mirror and seeing the healthiest version of yourself, not only seeing, but feeling the steady heartbeat, the deep breath, the agile body, the clear mind. Maintain this image faithfully, and the body cannot ignore it. It will adjust its functions, regenerate its cells, and reorder its rhythms to align with the plan. This is not vague magic, but the science of belief and visualization, where brain and body can only obey repeated imagery. Observe, and you will see signs of this law already at work. The one who believes they are weak walks hunched. The one who imagines failure wears a clouded face. The one who envisions peace radiates calm that others feel. The body does not conceal. It only tells the story you have been painting within. And so the question becomes, what are you painting each day? The strength of inner imagery lies also in persistence. A small picture repeated often has more power than a grand vision considered once. A simple image, faithfully rehearsed daily, wields greater influence than a lofty dream entertained briefly Thus, you need not craft elaborate scenes. Only select one clear image and live in it each day. It may be as simple as walking with ease, sleeping soundly, or smiling with the joy of health. Each time you live inside that image, the subconscious is reinforced once more. When the positive image is deeply rooted, it becomes the default blueprint. You no longer strain to imagine, it arises of itself, unbidden. At that stage, the body has received the new design and is faithfully constructing it. This is when health feels natural, not forced. The inner image has become part of identity, and the subconscious simply maintains it. The physics of inner imagery teaches a vital lesson. You are not merely a spectator of life, you are its architect from within. If you desire recovery, hand the body a blueprint of healing. If you desire energy, give it a vivid image of vitality. The body will obey, for this is an immutable law. And when you understand this, you will never again take lightly the visions you hold in your mind. The cycle of illness often begins with something small, a faint signal in the body, a brief ache, a moment of fatigue, an unusual heartbeat. Yet as soon as the signal arises, the mind rushes to interpret it with fear. Perhaps I am seriously ill. Perhaps this is dangerous. That interpretation immediately triggers stress. Cortisol and adrenaline flood the system. Muscles tighten. Breathing shortens. And the very tension amplifies the original symptom, making the cycle more severe. A mild ache becomes pain. A passing fatigue becomes exhaustion. And the body is swept into a spiral simply because the mind has delivered the wrong blueprint. The danger is that this cycle reinforces itself. You notice a symptom, you become afraid. Fear worsens the symptom. The stronger symptom fuels more fear. It becomes a psychological and physiological path so well worn that it turns into default. Without intervention, the cycle may run for years, leaving the body in constant false alarm, producing chronic conditions. But this cycle is not destiny. It can be broken early with small but decisive actions. The moment you notice a symptom and feel the mind sliding into fear, you can choose to pause, take a deep, slow breath, and send the nervous system a signal of safety. One breath may not erase the fear, but it interrupts the chain reaction and creates a gap for a new choice. In that gap, you can redirect attention away from the symptom toward an image of peace, a safe memory, a calming affirmation. Each time you do this, you are rewriting the blueprint and giving the body new orders. Affirmations of reassurance carry great power in such moments. When you say to yourself, "My body knows how to restore balance," or "I am safe and healing," you are not only soothing the mind, but transmitting clear instructions to the nervous system. The subconscious accepts the command and begins biological adjustment. Heart rate steadies, muscles soften, stress hormones fall. This is not imagination, but the body's real-time response to a new directive. At first, the old cycle will try to return, for the brain prefers the familiar, but every time you interrupt it, the old path wears thinner. Over time, its power fades, and the new path becomes the default. Instead of reacting with fear, you begin to respond with calm instead of the spiral of illness. You create the spiral of healing. This is how you reclaim mastery, not by fighting the body, but by changing the command at its source. Think of the cycle of illness as a wheel, turning endlessly by momentum. If you never intervene, it keeps spinning and grinds down health. Yet a small, well-placed stop halts it, giving you the chance to redirect. That intervention does not come from outside, but from within. It is your choice, your inner voice in that very moment. And as it has been said, this is the power of voice within. Not just a voice you hear, but a space you return to. Asterisk, it is not merely sound in your head, but an inner refuge you can return to at any moment for peace. When you realize you have the ability to break the cycle, small symptoms lose their terror. Instead of inflating them into disasters, you use them as reminders to return to breath, to redirect, to reaffirm safety, and in that moment, you reclaim your authority. The body no longer lives under false alarms, but is granted the chance to restore its natural balance. This practice demands perseverance, for the old loop has existed too long. Yet with patience, each interruption becomes a brick in a new foundation. One day you will notice that you are no longer dragged into the spiral of illness. Symptoms may come and go, but you no longer respond with fear. You observe calmly, deliver the blueprint of safety, and the body obeys. That is when the old cycle dissolves and a new one forms a cycle of recovery. A small symptom to a deep breath, to a signal of safety to the body, restores balance again and again until the healing cycle becomes instinct. And then you are not only free from the spiral of illness, but you also know you always have a place to return, a sanctuary of peace within yourself, where the inner voice becomes the melody of life. Building a multi-layered healing blueprint means you do not simply hand the subconscious a stray thought, but you deliver a complete design where image, emotion, and belief unite as one. A blueprint made only of words is difficult to turn into a building, but a blueprint with colors, lines, textures, and clear proportions can easily be built. Likewise, a dry affirmation has little power to change, but a vivid image infused with strong feeling and supported by belief can rewrite the foundation of the body itself. Begin with detailed imagery. If you want your body to recover, do not merely say vaguely, "I want to be well." Picture a specific scene. See yourself walking in the park. Feel your feet steady on the ground. Hear the birds. Breathe in the fresh air. The more specific the image, the easier it is for the subconscious to accept as a precise plan. The subconscious does not distinguish real from imagined. It only works with the detail given. The more detail, the greater the power of the blueprint. Next comes emotion. A picture without feeling is only a still frame. When you add joy, gratitude, and the sense of safety, it becomes a living plan. If you imagine yourself healthy but inwardly doubt, the signal sent down is conflicted and the body cannot build properly. But if you genuinely feel lightness in your chest, eagerness in your step, and confidence that it is happening, the design is etched into the subconscious as a clear command. Supporting belief is the foundation. If you still hold the beliefs that you are frail or that illness is unavoidable, positive images will struggle to take root. Core belief is the red line in the blueprint. It decides the whole framework. Images and feelings reach their true force only when built upon the conviction that the body is capable of healing, that the life in you is stronger than any symptom. When belief shifts, the design shifts, and every detail becomes secure. The key is repetition each morning. Every morning is like a blank page on which you can place a new blueprint before the day crowds in with noise and worry. On waking, the mind is soft. The subconscious, most receptive, spend a few minutes sitting still, breathing, building the detailed image, stepping into the fitting emotion, affirming the supportive belief. In doing so, you hand the invisible architect a clear plan for the entire day. Repeat each morning, and the blueprint gradually becomes the default foundation. no longer erased by old designs. Think of it as a ritual of giving yourself the key instead of letting the unconscious mind replay the old sketches of fear and anxiety. You deliberately place down a design of peace and vitality. The subconscious only knows to follow, and the body gradually reflects it day after day, cell by cell. The body relearns how to function by the new plan. A multi-layered healing blueprint also harmonizes with your choices through the day. When you start the morning with a clear vision of health, you more easily choose nourishing foods, more easily take a walk to support energy, more easily release stress. When challenged, these actions no longer stand apart. They all reinforce the morning blueprint. In this way, you are not merely imagining, you are living inside that design daily. The beauty is you need not demand instant results. With every repetition, you lay another brick, and though the eye may not yet see it, the inner structure is already rising. One day you realize you breathe more freely, you sleep more deeply, you have more energy. That is not chance, it is the fruit of the plans faithfully given each day. Building a multi-layered healing blueprint is how you reclaim authority from fear and return it to the creative intelligence within. Remember, your body is always faithful to the blueprint you supply. If the design is clear, detailed, filled with living feeling, and grounded in firm belief, there is no reason the structure will not rise. And when you repeat it each morning, you ensure the subconscious no longer receives the old plan, but only one design, the design of recovery and vitality. Living in the end result means you begin to act, move, breathe, and respond as one who is already healthy. This is not pretense or force, but a consistent signal to the subconscious that the new blueprint is complete and the structure already stands. When you walk upright, breathe deeply, speak with clarity, eat with gratitude, the body understands the new state has been confirmed. The subconscious does not distinguish pretense from reality. It only recognizes the rhythm you maintain. Thus, when you choose to act as one restored, you lock in the design and establish it as the default foundation. Picture the difference between two people. One walks daily with slouched shoulders, weak voice, doubtful eyes. That person may repeat positive affirmations hundreds of times, yet the body still builds upon the old plan, for the consistent signal remains fatigue and defeat. Another may not yet be in perfect health, but stands tall, breathes deeply, smiles, and conducts life as though health were natural. The subconscious immediately treats this as truth, and the body adjusts to align with the new state. This is the difference between speaking to the subconscious with words and speaking to it with the whole of life. Living in the end result also ends the confusion of mixed signals. Many people spend the day visualizing and affirming positive things, but the moment a small symptom appears, they react as though they are ill-panting. Worrying, complaining, erasing the earlier signal. If you want the subconscious to accept the new design, you must remain consistent in all situations. When symptoms arise, you still act as the healthy self, calm, confident, acknowledging discomfort but refusing to be defined by it. That consistency is the seal upon the new blueprint. And so I ask you, hearing this now, are you ready to try living as one who's already recovered? Can you imagine waking tomorrow and instead of treating the body as an enemy, you step out of bed with steadiness, breathe slowly, smile as though energy has returned? Can you believe that by shifting rhythm alone, the subconscious will register a new plan? If within you the answer is yes, mark this moment as a beginning, and I thank you sincerely for being here. For your presence and attention are already the first step in turning knowledge into experience. Living in the end result does not mean denying the present You need not pretend symptoms do not exist. It means deciding they do not define you. You choose to respond from the standpoint of health, not from the standpoint of illness. This sends a clear message that the old design is obsolete. The body requires consistent guidance, and your choice in each moment is that guidance, practice this long enough, and the body adapts. At first you may remind yourself daily, but gradually the new behavior becomes natural. You no longer need to think about standing tall or breathing deeply. It becomes reflex. That is the sign. The subconscious has fully accepted the new plan. The body synchronizes, symptoms diminish, vitality returns, and you realize you have truly stepped into the present of the end result. This shift extends beyond health into every part of life. When you act as one healthy, your eyes brighten, your voice strengthens, your energy radiates and attracts positive experiences. Others see in you a new presence, but more importantly, you feel yourself living in a house already rebuilt, strong and secure, and day by day, the inner truth becomes outer reality. Living in the end result is the turning point, for it transforms the process from effort into instinct. You no longer strive to heal, you simply live healed. The subconscious no longer receives conflicting designs, it receives one alone. You are well, and the body must conform. This is the law of nature, precise and unfailing. And as you walk, breathe, eat, sleep, and speak from that standpoint, you deliver the clearest command to the invisible architect that the building is already complete. Guarding the gate of the mind is essential. If you want your healing blueprint to endure, a new design may be built with detailed images, sincere emotions, and firm beliefs. But a single foreign blueprint slipping through can shake the whole structure. The subconscious has no filter. It simply accepts and builds whatever you allow past the gate. Your role is the gatekeeper, deciding what enters, what remains, and which design becomes the foundation. Each day you are exposed to countless words and images. A casual complaint that aging always brings illness, a news report filled with fear, a conversation that repeats limitation, all of these are foreign blueprints. If you are not alert, they slip into the subconscious and reshape the foundation you have laid. The danger is that they need little effort. Just hearing them a few times can make the subconscious treat them as truth. From there, the body begins to build according to a design that never belonged to you. Guarding the gate means choosing deliberately. Be careful with the words you hear and speak. Words are direct commands. Speak often of sickness, and the subconscious records it. Speak words of trust and encouragement, and the subconscious records that as well. Watch the images you feed the mind. A film full of disease and despair, a stream of fearful headlines. These are negative inputs. In contrast, images of recovery, vitality, and triumph nurture the positive design. Your environment is also a powerful source of blueprints. A room cluttered, dark, and heavy sends signals of disorder and fatigue. A space that is clean, bright, filled with plants and natural light sends signals of order and life. The subconscious records it all, and the body operates in harmony with what is repeated. By guarding the gate of your mind, you are choosing the materials for your own design. You cannot block every negative influence, but you can recognize and neutralize them. When you hear a discouraging statement, remind yourself that is their blueprint, not mine. When you see a negative image, picture a shield of light around you, keeping it from taking root. Neutralizing also means replacing. If someone says, "This illness always returns," immediately affirm the opposite. My body knows how to restore and maintain balance. Quick replacement prevents the foreign plan from embedding. Guarding the gate also means continuously nourishing the design you choose. It is not only about defense, but about filling the mind with words, images, and environments aligned with health and peace. When the inner space is saturated with light, darkness has little room. When you repeat affirmations, see images of strength, live in nurturing surroundings, you fortify the gate until it becomes a natural barrier. Those who fail to guard the gate often live in contradiction. In the morning, they visualize recovery, but by afternoon, they let a fearful broadcast slip in. The subconscious receives both and builds overlapping designs, leaving the body unstable, sometimes well, sometimes frail. Those who guard the gate understand that consistency matters more than intensity. One clear, protected blueprint is far stronger than many scattered ones, erased by confusion. Think of the mind as a garden. The seeds allowed into the soil determine the harvest. Without guarding the gate, weeds grow alongside your chosen plants. Weeds need no tending, but crops need care and protection. Guard the gate, and you stop the weeds at the border, giving fertile ground only to the seeds you want. So it is with the garden of the mind you decide the harvest of health and peace. Guarding the gate of the mind is not living in fear or denial. It is living in authority, knowing that every design entering the subconscious shapes the body. When you realize this, you begin to live selectively. You choose words that uplift rather than diminish. You choose images that inspire rather than frighten. You choose environments that energize rather than drain. And with each choice, you strengthen the gate, protect the healing design, and ensure the invisible architect builds only upon the foundation you have chosen. Turning crisis into a teacher is a vital step in the journey of healing. Normally, when crisis strikes a sudden diagnosis, a recurring pain, a setback that weakens the body, the mind immediately labels it as failure. Yet the truth is that crisis serves as a mirror, revealing weak points still hidden in the structure. It is like a strong wind exposing a crack in the wall. The crack is not the collapse of the building, but the opportunity to know where reinforcement is needed. When seen through this new lens, crisis ceases to be an enemy and becomes a teacher. This teacher never comes too late or too soon, but precisely when you are ready for the lesson, a relapse may be showing you that the gate of your mind is not yet guarded tightly enough. A lingering fatigue may be reminding you that you are not yet fully living in the end result, but still reacting as the ill self instead of resentment. You can ask crisis, "What have you come to teach me?" The answer always clarifies the inner design. The key is not to confuse condition with identity. You may be experiencing a symptom, but you are not the symptom. You may be facing difficulty, but you are not the difficulty. When you identify with illness, you give it the power to define you. When you hold fast to the identity, I am one who is recovering, I am one who lives in strength, then every condition is temporary, only data to adjust the plan, never the truth of who you are. Crisis is also the test of consistency when all is calm. Repeating affirmations and visualizations seems easy, but when pain knocks at the door, when a test result troubles you, that is the moment that proves the strength of your blueprint. Do you revert to fear and despair, or do you stand in the new belief? It is your reaction in crisis that confirms which design truly rules you, and if this time you waver, do not despair. The lesson has been revealed, and the opportunity to reinforce stands before you. Remember that the body always obeys consistent signals. If you face crisis yet Keep breathing slowly. Stand tall. And speak words of reassurance to yourself. The subconscious registers that the new design remains intact. Crisis only illuminates where more faith, more steadiness, more habit is required. And once reinforced, the structure becomes stronger than ever. Many have lived this truth. One suffered a relapse of serious illness, yet instead of panicking, returned to deep breathing and visualization. Another, after an accident, refused to drown in fear and chose instead to let the experience remind them to live slowly. Gratefully, the result was not only recovery, but greater resilience and peace. Crisis trained them more powerfully than any book could. This is the power of voice within, not just a voice you hear, but a space you return to, asterisk in crisis. That inner voice is your refuge. It is not merely a soothing sound, but a solid ground on which you stand, unshaken by the storm. Hearing that voice, you remember your true identity is untouched by symptoms. You return to the foundation already built, and from that foundation, you address crisis as an architect, refining the plan, not as a victim of collapse. And the miracle is that after every crisis, if you approach it as a student, you emerge with greater strength. Belief becomes firmer, habit more steadfast, the blueprint clearer, the structure, once reinforced, not only withstands the storm just passed, but is prepared for greater winds ahead. Crisis, when embraced rightly, is the unseen hand shaping you toward wholeness. Therefore, do not treat crisis as an ending. See it as a classroom. The lesson may not be pleasant, but it is always necessary. Each time it appears, ask, what am I to learn? What will I reinforce? And in which identity will I stand? With that answer, crisis no longer terrifies, but walks beside you on the path of healing. And you will see that no challenge is ever truly against you. Each is working to lay for you a stronger and more enduring foundation. Daily renewal and the compounding effect are the secrets to ensuring your healing blueprint does not remain in imagination alone, but becomes rooted in lived reality. A strong building requires not only a sound design, but also regular maintenance. If small cracks are ignored, they spread and weaken the foundation. The same is true of mind and body. Without daily renewal, minor stress, subtle worries, and stray blueprints can slip in and gradually undermine the structure you have built. The practice of renewal need not be long, only brief yet of high quality. Just a few minutes morning and evening can create a vast difference. In the morning, while the mind is still quiet, close your eyes, breathe deeply, rebuild the image of health, step into the feeling of peace, and affirm the supportive belief. That brief moment is like handing the invisible architect a fresh plan before the day begins. At night, before sleep, you do the same, sending down the final order for the body to build upon while you rest. Thus, day and night, construction continues unbroken. The true power lies in the compounding effect. An affirmation spoken once is like a grain of sand dropped into water, but spoken hundreds of times with emotion and imagery, it becomes a wall of strength. One breath of peace in the morning may not change you at once, but thousands of such breaths across years rewrite the biological rhythm like drops of water wearing down stone. Small, consistent rituals erase the old blueprint and engrave the new one into the subconscious. The key is consistency, not duration. Many begin with excitement, practicing heavily for a few days, only to quit when weary. They're like a gardener who pours a flood of water once, then leaves the plant dry. All week, the plant still withers. Plants need steady watering, small but regular, and so does the mind. Just a few minutes each morning and night but without fail nourishes the new design. The body does not need one massive dose, but steady measures at the right time to maintain balance. Daily renewal also helps you detect small cracks early. By spending a few minutes observing breath and inner imagery, you quickly notice if worry has crept in, if muscles are tightening, if old beliefs are trying to return. You can then correct it immediately, like repairing a roof leak before the whole ceiling collapses. Preventing small fractures from becoming major damage is the priceless gift of daily renewal. Another gift of renewal is maintaining momentum. A train, once in motion, needs only a small force to keep rolling. Stop it, and great effort is needed to start again. Brief morning and evening practice is that small force, keeping your train in motion. Thus, when unexpected trials arise, you do not start over, you only adjust course. The form of the ritual can be flexible. Some may choose silent meditation, others affirmations, others gratitude journaling, others gentle movement with breath. The core is always consistency, clarity, and sincerity. You need not seek perfection in ritual, only perseverance to keep the blueprint alive. Over time, you will find the compounding effect extends beyond health into every area of life. You become calmer in adversity, clearer in decision, more magnetic to positive experiences. It all begins with not leaving the gate of the mind unguarded, but faithfully renewing the design you choose. Daily renewal is a reminder that you are the architect of this structure, that each morning and evening is your chance to lay another brick in the house of well-being. You need not build a palace in one day. You need only place each brick in its right place. Looking back, you will see a solid structure has risen not from a single grand act, but from 1,000 small steps compounded. This is the living proof that stability and vitality do not come from one explosive moment, but from simple, steady rituals you chose to sustain. Harmonizing with the flow of life and rising beyond the body is the summit of the healing journey, the place where you no longer see health merely as the absence of illness, but as the climate of the spirit permeating every moment of living. The body ceases to be a battlefield of fear and resistance and becomes an instrument through which a deeper design resounds when you honor both rest and action, when you know when to hold and when to release. Life itself becomes an orchestra moving in invisible order. In a hurried world, many forget this natural rhythm. They work when they should rest, cling when they should release, resist when they should yield. The result is tension in the body, exhaustion in the mind, and fragile health. Yet when you observe the rhythms within and around you, you find that life already carries its own cycles. The sun rises and sets, spring gives way to summer, and then to autumn and winter. The heart contracts and relaxes. To align with this rhythm is to be supported. To resist is to invite disorder. Harmony means resting without guilt when the body asks for it, because rest is also part of the building. In deep sleep and calm breath, the invisible architect works most powerfully to restore and renew. But movement is also essential. The body was not made for stagnation, but for motion, for experience, for creation. When you move with joy, the body recognizes the signal of vitality and responds with strength. Rest and action alternate, and balance comes when you learn to listen. Releasing at the right moment is an art of wisdom. Many cling to worries, angus, old memories, and the body becomes a heavy storage. But when you learn to release, not to abandon, but to return what no longer serves you, open space for new energy to flow, the body lightens, the mind clears, and health returns. as a natural current, not as a prize to be chased. At this stage, health ceases to be a project, micromanaged, and becomes a spiritual climate that surrounds you, as when you live in a gentle climate, you need not struggle, for the environment itself sustains you. So too with health, it becomes the natural baseline when the mind is at peace and the flow of life is respected. You no longer scramble with each symptom, but live in an atmosphere where the body easily does its work. And then a deeper awareness dawns that the body is only an instrument while you are the musician. The body may tire, it may change with years, but the deeper design, the design of spirit, continues its song. Living from that place, you cease to fear the body's changes, because, true health is not confined to flesh and bone, but rooted in clarity, peace, and freedom of mind. This is freedom beyond the body. It is not denial of the body, but using it as a vessel for a higher reality. You care for it out of reverence, not out of fear. You live with joy and creativity, no longer bound by obsession with illness or age. The body becomes a companion while you live as architect and conductor. At this point, every experience, even hardship, becomes another note adding depth to the music. Fatigue is a reminder to rest. Trial is an opportunity to strengthen faith. Even aging is not an end, but a change of key, shifting the music into deeper tones. You are no longer imprisoned in the body, but use it as an instrument to play fully the song of spirit. To harmonize with the flow of life and to rise beyond the body is both the conclusion of healing and the beginning of a new journey. From here, health is no longer a goal to pursue, but the air you breathe, the ground you walk, the current you live in. And on that foundation, you are free to reach toward what is deeper still, what the body can only reflect but never contain, the boundless life and true freedom of the soul. You do not need to start over each day, for the invisible architect is always awaiting your command. Every thought is a brick, every belief a beam, every image a design, and the house of health you seek is not somewhere far away. It is built in the very moment you choose to live in the end result. To guard the gate of your mind and to renew the blueprint daily, remember, health is not a destination, but the climate you create and dwell in when you move in harmony with the flow of life and rise beyond the limits of the body. You become not only the resident, but the architect of a life filled with strength and well-being,